right, everybody. Welcome back to the Heartbeat to Go podcast, Challenges and Transformations. This is Laura.
And Kumbi.
Hello, we're here. We're here with our next challenge. This is episode 9, which is our Gemini challenge. And Gemini, we are doing a meditation challenge.
Yay! Do we know why we're doing a meditation challenge for Gemini season?
Will you please tell us? Tell us all about Gemini, Kumbi.
Okay, so we have Gemini season, which begins at the end of May and moves through most of June. Gemini is a mutable air sign, and it is ruled by the planet Mercury. So Mercury is a planet of communication, of logic, of thinking, of intellectualizing things, of technology, of details. Mercury is like, think about mercurial, what mercurial means. And so Gemini is one of those for sure. It's considered pretty much the overthinker of the zodiac, or at least I'm coining it that officially right now. So, and it's symbolized by the twins, so it's this duality. And it's a real actual manifestation of one element of what it is to be human, which is we are here on this planet in this realm, and it's all about dualism. Mm-hmm. It's all about black and white. It's all about opposites. It's about contrast. It's about how one thing actually defines the opposite of one thing actually defines that thing. So it's this overthinking mind. So air is a mental energy type of a element, and you think about like wind, like with air, it's thinking about the mind with like its thoughts. It's just insane, right? With the thinking. Yeah. So I don't know. You probably know some Geminis. I know a lot of Geminis. And it's probably something that they probably are very aware of as well. As far as like, we all have probably an overthinking epidemic at the moment, but Geminis, I think, are specifically very afflicted by it. And it's not just, it's one thing. There's I would say there's 2 ways to do Gemini, as far as you could do a lower vibration or a higher vibration. Mm-hmm. And the lower vibration is just the one that is just so controlled by their thoughts that it's difficult to even, do anything without feeling a sense of either anxiety or creating problems or stories, that are going to eventually just hold you back. Mm-hmm. And that's one way, definitely the one way that people live. Right. And then, but the higher way to, to kind of live beyond that, to transcend that, is to know this about yourself, and to know also, which is what a spiritual practice does, is to know that you are not your thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. So the over-identification with the thinking, with the thoughts, with the ideas, is just another way of falsely identifying yourself as something outside of yourself. Even though thoughts are in your mind, they're still considered of like the physical realm that's like ever-changing, and not actually real. Like, as far as it's not, thoughts and emotions are also part of like your physical body and like the physical world. It's like, you are not those things. Mm-hmm. Those things are ever changing. Those things are constantly in flux. And who you are, as far as like establishing and being rooted in who you are, as far as a higher consciousness or an infinite self or an energetic being, then doesn't need to be defined by any of those things, but we don't know this until we come into some sort of practice or some sort of experience of awareness of it. Right. So that's what meditation does. That's what meditation does for you. And it doesn't need to necessarily be like, identification with yourself as like an energetic being or a spiritual being is definitely a benefit for a spiritual practice. But you can also just know that you can do a meditation practice and doesn't have to necessarily be quote unquote spiritual. Right. It can just be a clearing of the mind. It can actually be noticing of the space between the thoughts. It can be real just mindfulness and objective awareness of everything. So that's one of the things that we go into in our meditation challenge, is kind of experimenting with different types of meditation, and to, maybe there's not a stigma anymore, but I know that in the recent past that meditation was very much associated with a spirituality. Mm-hmm. And yes, like for me, for sure, but it doesn't need to be.
Right.
Right. So, and it can work, and it works for everybody.
Yeah.
Once you can find,
what works for you.
What works for you. That's what I say about yoga. Like when people say, oh yeah, yoga's not for me. It's like, well, you know what? Yoga's actually for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just about finding what it is,
Right.
like we all need to move our bodies in some way, but anyway, so we all need to calm and clear our minds in some ways.
Yeah.
So that's why, so Gemini, the overthinker, the dualism is really, almost like the extreme polarities, the ability to be able to see like two things at once, like as far as think the two sides of the same situation. And also there is this element of not necessarily deception, but definitely an ability to be able to like compartmentalize like one part of your character and another part of the character. So it's almost like a like two-faced, like two faces, but not necessarily in a bad way, but potentially, as far as there's always the shadow.
Yeah.
So yeah, what else do we need to know about Gemini?
Well, I was going to ask you that because I know of some Geminis in my life that it seems like at times they'll say one thing, and then if you ask them about it, it's like then they say the polar opposite thing. Is that the two-faced thing coming up, or the dualism? It kind of is confusing. Yeah. What's happening right now?
Yeah, that sounds confusing.
Yeah.
I would think it's this knowing of both sides, to the same story, or knowing the two sides to the story. So, which is like a real benefit, as far as like, it can, like, you can have like a real open-mindedness with that.
Yeah.
Which, not every, I mean, that's like a huge attribute, is to be open-minded, but yeah, to be, contradicting is definitely would be a common Gemini trait, I think.
Yeah. So would you say is like, so if everything is kind of black and white with Gemini, is that sort of the shadow, or is that like, I think of like opening up then to like the non-dualistic approach to things?
Right.
Is that?
Yeah, no, Gemini is definitely not non-dualistic. That's kind of like the shadow of Gemini. Yeah, for sure. Is the living in duality, but not just living in duality, identifying with duality, so it's like being like, I'm on this side, you're on that side, kind of like I'm identifying with this side, but yeah, the higher vibration would be ability to be able to see both sides, but transcend it and not be attached to either.
Yes.
So that's like the real, I mean, that's like more of like seventh chakra. That's more of like an Aquarian energy.
Okay.
Like the sense of oneness, is eventually where you want to go. But the fact is that we're human beings and we're having this physical experience. Yep. And this physical experience is all about duality. Exactly. So you have to really get into the experience of it before you can transcend it anyways.
Yep.
So yeah. So it's definitely like there's a purpose.
Exactly.
Because
you can't know one without the other, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
So
interesting.
So meditation challenge.
5-day
meditation challenge.
This was good. And everybody, this is meditating 2 times a day.
Which makes a huge difference.
A huge difference. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why I was feeling a little bit like things just felt a little bit more intense with just meditating twice a day. Definitely noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're meditating twice a day, and we're doing all different types of meditation. So some breath work, some guided meditation, some self-guided affirmation and mantra, some mindfulness, and then journaling about the experience afterwards. So let's get right into day 1. So day 1 was the morning was practicing Samina breathing. Am I saying that right? Or
Samina.
Samina breathing or box breathing. And then in the evening, we do a 5th chakra or expanded perspective meditation. So let's talk about breath work first. So this was beyond the ones that I had done a few times with you, this was sort of my first time doing breath work.
Oh, okay.
And I did it for the 24 rounds.
Good, yeah.
Which was great. I could see why we would do it for the 24 rounds.
Not just 12.
Not just 12.
Right.
So you do it for 24 rounds, and I did the 6 and 8 ratio. So you start with 6 and then you do 12 to 8.
Did you do 12 rounds with 6 and then 12 and 8?
No. I did 6. I did 6 I just kind of made it up. I did 12 of 6, and then I did, I think, like 8 of 8, and then I went back down to 6 to like finish it off.
Oh, right. That's
So it was
great.
kind of like working my way back down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that I definitely felt a shift around round 6. Well, do you want to explain what it is about breathing?
Yeah, for sure. So the simplest, I mean, I think there is a simple term called box breathing where you just, you even out your inhale. So there's 4 parts of the breath. There's the inhale, there's the retention, which is the hold after the inhale, there's the exhale, and then there's the suspension, which is the hold after the exhale. So box breathing would be each part of the breath is the same count. So if you're doing 4, like a 4-4-4-4 ratio, then it's 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold. And so, and in pranayama and in the yoga practice that's called Samina breathing, which is even breathing. So there's Brahmana and there's Langana breathing. So if you want to so breath work is so important because it's a very direct way to shift your energy. So quickly and drastically, and it's effectively, like it happens 100% of the time. So if you do, so the ancient yogis knew this. This is why pranayama is such an important part of a yoga practice, but it's still not emphasized in Western yoga. But like a traditional yoga practice would be asana, which is the actual physical postures, followed by breath work, followed by meditation. So it'd be like so you're going from like external, more internal, all the way internal. And so it prepares you. So it's breath work is basically a preparation for meditation, or it's the thorough way between the physical and then the spiritual. It's like it takes you through that portal way, it takes you from your body into your heart. So in yoga, you use the breath to shift your energy either up, or you shift your energy down, or you can try to keep it like centered. So Samina, the box breathing, the even breath work is about keeping it very centered. But if you wanted to do a Brahmana practice, which would be like an activating practice, then you would just increase the seconds and the holds of the inhale and the retention.
I see. Okay.
And then, and if you wanted to do a Langana practice, which would be like something to kind of more restore or take your energy down, then you increase the seconds or the holds, or increase the amount of time of the exhale and the hold after the suspension.
Got it.
So, and there's long practices that you do for these because it can be considered kind of intense or maybe even dangerous for some people with like preconditions, but I feel like it's very subtle. But there are things that you are supposed to learn about. Like we did a whole training in it in my yoga therapy. Like for 2 weeks, we just focused on pranayama, and one of the techniques is that you are supposed to start off slow and low, and then slowly climb to your peak ratio, and then bring it back down again.
Yeah.
Because you notice it's like the more you do it, the more you can do it. And the real goal of breath work is to elongate your breath to the point where I guess like Patanjali could do a full 1 minute breath. That means a 15-second inhale, 15-second hold, 15-second exhale, and a 15-second hold. And if you can control your breath to that extent, then you can really, really shift your energy, and you have like a lot of you get into that really deep state of like your whole energy system, your whole body, your whole vibration is like that's where they say like the ancient yogis could die and come back to life, or can almost be dead but alive, they say like the suspension or that hold after the exhalation is the closest thing that you can experience to death. That empty, very bottom of the exhale. You're just holding it out, and it's dark and it's still and it's like so quiet. That pause, and for some people it's really hard to get there. Like if you notice too, a lot can be said about, are you somebody who is able to take an inhale and hold that inhale easier than you are somebody who is able to take an exhale and hold out that exhale. Because if you're somebody who can easily, take in and hold, then it can be an indication that that's actually how you live your life too, where you just take on too much, or you take in too much and you hold on to things for too long, and you feel overwhelmed, and you have a tendency for anxiety or OCD. It's like there's lots of indications, lots of things that can be revealed through the way that you breathe. And then the opposite for the exhalation, as far as if you're like, for me, I was always able to, I noticed when I first started doing pranayama, I noticed I was always able to do the inhale and the hold much easier. And for a lot of people it is when they start out. And then I intentionally really worked on elongating my exhale and elongating that hold and being comfortable in that hold after the exhale before your inhale. And now that part is easier for me.
Got it.
And I have to say, it shifts. I mean, if you're shifting your energy system, then, and you're doing it on a regular basis, as far as this was the practice that I was doing every single day, then it affects your whole life. I mean, it's just the way that you show up is completely different. It's like it's like a little shift. This is why we have so much control and power, is that little shift of the way that you breathe, and you're doing it intentionally for a specific, reason. You can make that shift, and that little shift in itself changes everything. It just changes how you live your life. If you show up in your life with a different energy vibration, if you're more calm, if you're less clinging, if you're, those types of characteristics that go along with maybe balancing your breath out, it shows up, in the way that you live your life.
I mean, I totally experienced that. And I feel like for someone that hasn't done this all that often, I would say the shift is so quick. I couldn't believe, by round 6, I really felt almost this, I wrote embodiment of breath. It felt like I was breathing with my whole body. I don't know how to explain that, but it felt like my cells had more air in them or something, right? I just felt everything, I just felt a lot more grounded. And then I felt afterwards, I was just more calm. I had to go, I was sitting in traffic. There was a really bad car accident on the freeway, and I was just oh, it's fine. Normally that probably would have stressed me out because I was running late, but I was just really fine. Yeah, exactly. I'm just what can I do? So I think that it just, it completely shifted. So I wonder, I mean, this is one that I would definitely want to practice on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. To even out to even out and recenter your system. For sure.
I mean, especially with anxiety and stuff.
Absolutely. I know.
That I was I bet Kundi doesn't have anxiety. And I was I wonder if it's because she's done all this breath work.
I mean, I don't experience it. I'm surprised at how many people live with chronic anxiety. I can't even imagine. I think I have normal anxiety, but no, I really don't have anxiety. But because I know people who do have anxiety, and it's it's a constant thing. It's not something that goes in and out it does kind of for me. So but the mistake with breath work is that this is it's a practice, it's a discipline, you have to do it on a regular basis. And so a lot of people are oh, I tried breath work, and it's wait, how long did you try it for? Because it's just a meditation. It's oh yeah, I tried meditation, or I've meditated, that's all you did it a couple times, now you're good,
Right.
And it's that's not how it works. It's just anything, it's a cumulative effect as you continue to practice. So for me, doing that training and then having to do 6 months of that, of where you do regular pranayama every single day, really shifted. It felt like it really shifted. And then it's so easy to come back to once you have that as established practice.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
I know, so I love it.
So how was it for you?
It was great as far as, so I don't know if six to me, is too, it doesn't really affect me. So I go up so I did 8, I started out with 8 and then I do 10 and sometimes I can do 12. And one of the things that I wanted to say, and maybe I'll try to add it to the challenge sheet, is that a really great way to count your rounds, and if you can see it on the video, is when you bring your thumb to each part of your finger pad would be like a round of 12. So you go and you make it into like a spiral. So you go on the index finger, the front part, you take it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you end at your ring and then you can go back out again. So then, if you do the whole thing on your fingers for twice, if you do the whole thing on your fingers for 1 time in and then 1 time out, then that's 24.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you're 1, 2, 3, 4. Because otherwise you lose track, don't you? How did you count?
I was just counting in my head.
Oh,
and
okay.
just doing a little check mark.
Oh, check mark,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
did it.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you can do it with your thumb like this. All around and make this spiral. So I did that. Yeah, I was like 24 rounds. Like you really should do it for, you should do it for a while.
Yeah.
Much like 24 would be. How long did that take you?
I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you probably should do it for twice as long as that.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Well, this was actually a good way to ease into it because I definitely felt it just by doing 24.
Yeah. And do you see how it will set you up for meditation?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could do 15 minutes of pranayama and then 15 minutes of meditation. Like your meditation after pranayama is so deep. You go straight into it.
Okay.
It's like, yeah.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you have anything else for that one?
For the breathwork one?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess the other thing I want to say is that there's so many different types of breath work too. And like my friend, Brandon does one that was created by this guy, David Elliott, and which is super, super powerful. But it's basically like a 2 inhales through your, it's all mouth breathing. It's 2 inhales to your mouth and then exhale out your mouth. So it's like, and you're over oxygenating kind of your body and your system, and there's so much release that happens, right?
Yeah,
that's
kind of
very
like clench
intense.
up. Yeah, that you're like sweating.
Exactly, and you do that for at least like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
then you're on your back, and it's intense. And there's music, and it's
like you're crying.
Right. So if you can definitely go there with breath work.
Yeah.
This I would consider more like light breath work or breath work light or pranayama, which is the actual term.
And I love the idea of doing it right before your actual meditation too. Okay, so that was the morning of day 1. Day 1 evening, we do either a 5th chakra or expanded perspective guided meditation. So I did the expanded perspective.
Because did I record the 5th chakra one? Okay, I need to record that one. So hopefully it will be done by the time this podcast or this challenge comes out.
Yeah. So expanded perspective was really, it was great. It brought me like to another planet. It felt like it was, but it was like for that purpose, I think, for giving a little bit perspective, obviously, but getting out of like the crazy monkey mind, I think, of our everyday lives. So
I know. I know that's one of the things that I loved about, so Sam Harris has a meditation app. I forget what it's called, but he does a very non-spiritual meditation practice. And he, like, cause I think he's an atheist. I'm like, I think he thinks he's an atheist. Just kidding. So, and he just said something that was so funny one time when he's like, if you get a chance to like really just witness your mind, like this is what meditation affords you. It's like you get a chance to really witness like your mind. It's like your mind is insane. Like if it were like a person, you would stay like 100 miles, like you'd stay away from that person.
Right.
Like
you would never talk to somebody else the way you talk to yourself.
Right. Or deal with that kind of like just constant chatter.
Yeah.
You'd be like, please be quiet. What? stop talking.
Yeah.
Just the rabbit holes it goes down and all the things that it jumps around on and thinks about, it's like, it's so crazy. So yeah, that's why I love this meditation. I don't know, I think there's another one. There's expansion, and then there's expanded perspective. But both of them have to do with, and I've done them a lot in my yoga classes, which I really love, is that it takes you from being in your physical body, being in your physical experience, being in that physical now, and then takes you even like further and further out. So like in yoga, there is Shavasana means corpse, or corpse pose. So basically you're supposed to leave your body, you're supposed to feel what it feels like to just allow your physical body to die or to be released, and then feel what it's like to not be in your physical body, which means being, expanded out beyond this physical now, which is like, so even though it feels like, oh my gosh, it seems so scary to be floating out in space, but it's actually very comforting to just know that this little thing, these little details of your life right now are not everything.
Yes.
Like this is not the only thing that's happening, even though it feels like it.
Right.
So yeah, there's always a benefit in that.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you have anything else with that one?
No,
Or your day
that was
one?
it. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to day 2, which is guided and affirmation meditation. So in the morning we choose another guided meditation, and then in the evening we choose an affirmation or a mantra and practice repeating it out loud. So I actually did the mantra. I did it both because I couldn't find the other meditation.
Oh yeah. Or you could do the same one again.
You could do the same one,
right?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do 2 affirmation mantras. In the morning, I did the I am loving affirmation, which was great. One of the things that came up for me as I was doing it was, and I think this is one of the things I've learned the most with meditation is it's not necessarily what happens to you in the meditation, but it's what happens like throughout your day then, like how you show up to your day because of the meditation.
Right.
Like it's not like looking for some giant insights. Of course, sometimes those come through. But I think just the practice of the meditation itself is just setting you up to be better in your day. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was like one of my recent insights. So meditating or affirming this I am loving, like that was the thing. It just kept me up like, okay, just see how the rest of your day goes. And I feel like, I've been practicing this a lot with like some different relationships in my life and reading different books on just opening myself up more, not doing my normal like close off, like that was kind of my consistent thing. So this just helped me to keep staying open, don't close down, which was really beautiful. And then I just feel like the interactions that I had with everybody else throughout the rest of the day was just more open and loving.
Yeah.
So it's just like beautiful.
Yeah.
Just affirming that, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, it's like putting putting that vibration into yourself, into your subconscious, basically.
Right.
So that you're just coming more from that place than you would be from other places. Right. It's like there's only so many ways that you can show up, or so many, so much energy that you can align with. You might as well do it in a conscious way versus just allow old patterns or old habits to guide you. You know?
Yeah.
So
exactly. So I am loving.
I know. So you can use obviously any affirmation or mantra, and sometimes so I feel like affirmation and mantra, like I use them very interchangeably, but I do know that they're very different. So, but I would say, like, I know like a mantra is supposed to actually be like a specific sounding Sanskrit seed sound, like Om is a mantra, or like, but I love that to a certain extent. And I know that there's probably some kind of benefit of me saying that, even though if I'm not exactly sure actually means. But there's some, like the direct way of just saying something that is like, I mean, I guess it could backfire too. Like if you're not in the right space to like receive that affirmation, then you might be like, why am I saying this?
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Which is why you definitely have to prepare yourself to to be in the space to receive the affirmation. But but I do use them interchangeably because I think that a mantra can also be something that is just repeated over and over.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So so the way that I created those mantras is all along with the chakras.
Yeah.
Right. Did you notice that? So you could be, there's 7 different mantras to choose from. And the first one would correspond to the root chakra, which is I am safe. And the second one corresponds to the second chakra, which is I am inspired. The third one to the third chakra, which is I am powerful. The fourth one to the fourth chakra, which is I am loving, which is interesting that you chose that one. The fifth one to the fifth chakra, which is I am authentic. The sixth one to the sixth chakra, which is I am intuitive. And then the seventh one to the seventh chakra, which is I am connected. Did you notice that?
I did not.
Oh,
no.
You didn't. Oh, okay. I was like, is that obvious?
I am loving. I was like, oh, that's interesting because love is like what we're focusing on this season.
Right.
For Taurus season.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, but I did not notice that. No.
Okay.
Makes sense though.
Yes. So, but you can use any mantra, that you want. And I always use I am inspired. I mean, I would like to use some of the other ones too, but as far as I'm usually, I guess if I'm in doing a meditation, then what I am looking for is inspiration. Yeah. Unless I guess if I'm looking for like grounding, but yeah, usually I'm more just like I'm looking to feel like some sort of like connection, inspiration type of thing. So.
And it's so funny because I feel like the writer in me. So for the evening, I did the same thing. Except I chose I am powerful. And what I really like during that meditation, it was like looking at meanings of words. I feel like they become bigger and more expansive when you meditate on them.
Yeah.
You start to see a bigger meaning for something. So like power isn't something about like being powerful over someone or something like some like sort of, I don't know, like the traditional patriarchal view of power.
Yeah.
It's like much more like power in the sense of I'm powerful because I'm courageous. I'm powerful because I'm loving. I'm powerful because I'm gentle. I'm powerful. So it's just like opening up definitions of words is what I think meditation helps with too.
Yeah.
So that's what I really pulled out of the evening part of my meditation with that. And
right. Like
it
starts to become more contemplative. When you just really say it and like, when you're saying the words.
And you're just creating the space inside of yourself to open yourself up more to a larger meaning of it. You're just becoming more expansive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I know. I love that. So I think I did because it wasn't the guided was in the morning. Oh yeah. So I did my affirmation one in the evening that I am inspired. And I love doing the repetition and the mantra. I don't always do it though. I like to incorporate it with like the other one.
Yeah.
But in the morning I did a different self-guided, or I did a different guided off of one of my other apps. And that's when, Tuesday morning was when I started like falling asleep during my meditation. I would think it would have been Monday that I would have been tired because I had a very long weekend. But yeah, no, it started on Tuesday. Maybe it was because I had Tiger. So my meditation practice, like everybody's like, do you meditate every single morning at like 5 a.m. or something? And it's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I have to squeeze it in like when I can do it, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I do it in the morning when Tiger's not here, but when she's here, I have to wake up really early to get her ready for school. So I usually don't do my meditation until like mid-morning or sometimes the afternoon. So I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was when I had gotten up really early and I was super tired, which is also one of the reasons why I don't meditate lying down, because I'll totally just fall asleep or like meditate at night. Some people are like, put on your headphones and lay down and meditate right before you go to sleep. I'm like, I would be like asleep in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's not working for me. So I need like lights on. I need to be sitting up. I need to be, not with my back against anything. And, like just as much like stimulation as possible while I meditate.
Right.
But I still I did like a thing where I almost like knocked my head on my desk, which was not great. And then it's like hard to come back from that. So I did do a guided, but I did like the head knock, and then the affirmation was a little bit easier, and I didn't do it for as long.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it always works. The affirmation one always works.
Affirmations. I mean, this is my first time really doing them. I did them 3 times this week because I did it twice on Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning is another affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So I did I am authentic.
Oh, okay.
That one was super interesting because I felt like, and I guess speaking of like the chakras, with this one, I really felt my throat opening. Like it felt like there was something tied to like expression, something with self-expression and authenticity that was opening up for me. So that was really, really interesting.
Oh, so you did know. It was like a line.
Yeah,
you feel it. Yeah.
Totally. But I noticed also my third eye was like on fire this week.
Right.
So much meditating. It just felt like it was expanding and opening so much.
Yeah.
So,
that's what I did, was that I am intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Because, ever since we started doing, remember we did that intuition challenge?
Yeah.
And like, that one really got me like thinking about my intuition in a way that, I hadn't thought about it before. I feel like there's words like that where you're just like, oh yeah, you kind of know what that means. And then when you really look at it and you're like, wait, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
And what is it exactly? And I feel like we kind of dove deep into like figuring out what it was. And one of the things that was a consistent idea that I came out of from that was that your intuition is always correct. Like somebody, I was having a conversation with somebody who was like, oh, sometimes your intuition is wrong. And I'm like, if your intuition is wrong, then it's not your intuition, right?
You need to be able to discern
exactly
when it really is your intuition. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not use the intuition for maybe a different word, like maybe like instinct or impulse or something,
Yeah.
So I have been loving the third eye opening, but also, it's like we're in this eclipse portal, like we're doing this challenge right now between these 2 eclipses during this eclipse season. And so this is like kind of an intense moment.
Yeah.
And during the eclipse portal way, there seems to be a lot of 7th and 6th chakra opening that takes you into different like times and spaces. Like it's very like the 3rd dimension is not, can feel kind of warped during this time.
Yeah.
Which it totally does to me.
Yeah. It's a little bizarre.
Yeah, very bizarre.
Yeah.
So
okay. Anyway. So you did the I am intuitive for day 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in the evening, it was to focus on a candle or a visualization of a clear blue sky for 15 minutes.
Right. Was that hard for you?
Yes.
It's hard. It's like progressively getting harder as we move through the week.
Yeah. And there's another reason for that too, because I did it at the very end of the day, and I met a friend out, and I had a glass of wine, so it was just like, I was so tired. So I lit a candle when I got home, and I was like staring at the candle, and it was a little bit like hypnosis.
Right.
But then I just fell right asleep.
You fell asleep. Yeah. I know.
So, but it was very calming.
Right.
You have to stick with it.
I know the mindfulness, when you get into like mindfulness and self-guided and like Vipassana meditation, like those types of meditations, it's like, it gets harder. It progressively gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
So that's why like the meditation challenge is kind of set up. So like you start kind of like with the fundamental thing, like the breath work, which everybody can get.
Right.
And then you go into the guided, and then the guided, which is easy to do also. I mean, the only tricky thing about guided is finding a right guided meditation that you like.
Yeah.
And then you go from guided into affirmation, and affirmation is somewhat easy, but also challenging because you do have to focus on just what you're saying. But then when you start getting into self-guided and when you start getting into mindfulness, it's harder.
Oh, gosh.
It's harder.
It really was. Yeah. Yeah.
I know. So I always do the clear blue sky because So I do that in my yoga. I do the guided for the fifth chakra when we do fifth chakra practice in my yoga classes, because of the way that visualizing the color blue, especially that blue of the sky, it's like, it's not necessarily, I guess, is it considered sky blue, but it's almost like a really like crisp, like royal blue in a way, right? Sometimes, or maybe royal blue is darker. But it's that blue of the sky, which I think I told you, like maybe use more like a turquoise for the Gemini social media. But that's the blue that is associated with your fifth center. So the fifth center is what Mercury corresponds to. The planet Mercury corresponds to. That's like the center of communication, and communication meaning like being like clear, being authentic, being honest, like not just verbal articulation, but like in like the way that you listen, in the way that you are present with people, in the way that, it's like communication, the way that you use your body, like the way, all the different forms of communication. So I do like that sky blue visualization to help stimulate that fifth center.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Did anything come up for you for that?
No, I mean, it's just hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do without a guided.
Were you looking at a sky, or were you just visualizing?
Yeah, the blue sky.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Just visualize it. It's that meditation where there's a guided one that's like that too, where it's like about clearing your mind, where you you kind of manipulate the sky to be like your mind. So when there's lots of thoughts in your mind, and then it's kind of like a thunderstorm, there's you can imagine like big puffy dark clouds and like lots of like electrical activity, and it's like it's kind of stuffed. And then you do that like visualization of like the clouds like slowly dispersing and becoming whiter and becoming more wispy, clearer, and then they're dispersing, and then it starts to become clear, and then you can have like maybe like one or two clouds or thoughts come through, but you watch them come through. They don't like stay there and then become bigger, you just watch them pass through, like you watch clouds floating through the sky. It's a very calming meditation, but I feel like it helps with your fifth center, balancing out your throat chakra.
Great.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, these definitely got more challenging as the week goes on. So then in day 4, we do a visualization, a focus, and a mindfulness meditation. So in the morning, yes, on Thursday, we do visualize or focus for 15 minutes. And then in the evening, we did 15 minutes of observing our breath or all the senses in the moment without judgment, just awareness. So for me, visualization, I feel like I was visualizing like my future self. I did like a future self meditation, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't focus on anything specifically. I wasn't sure what to focus on. So I was like, okay, I'm going to visualize how I want to see myself like in 5 years from now, and how she moves throughout the world, and like kind of interacting with what I was be doing, how I interact with the world, where I live. Like I did one of those kinds of visualizations.
Interesting. Okay. So because the way that the week was supposed to go is that you were supposed to do the same one back to back. You know what I mean? So that you could like really reinforce that meditation, So we started with the breath work, but then, so if you did like a visualization of the candle the night before, you're supposed to do it again the next day. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't clear on the sheet. But that would be for like the actual challenge, just to reinforce a certain technique.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So sorry, that wasn't clear on the thing. You're like, visualization. What am I supposed to visualize? I was like, it meant to be like the visualization from the day before.
Got it. Okay. Sorry. Get that. No. But what I was thinking about, what we were talking about with like eclipse season, at least like North Node, I was like, all right, I'm going to lean into this node stuff that we're learning, right?
Right. Because your North Node is
in Leo.
Right.
So it was like, okay, how can I visualize that? So anyway, how did yours go?
Well, I did the same visualization, right? Which it's like, it really does help to practice it again, especially if it's a challenging thing, because it is like meditation is challenging if you're trying to do something that you are not used to doing, of course, like anything. but especially when it comes to the mind, because you know, it's like you have to practice knowing that your mind is trainable, you know, that it doesn't necessarily, like, you don't need to be ruled by it. Like, you can actually, like, it's malleable. Like, you can go in there and you can like make it do things, you know, you can make it focus on things. So so I did the sky meditation, sky visualization meditation, and it's different too, doing a meditation at night versus doing it in the morning. Did you notice?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So totally if I do a meditation in the afternoon or at night, I'm always so drowsy. Morning, for some reason, even though if I do it right when I wake up, it's not that I'm drowsy, it's more that I'm well, maybe I'm drowsy, but it also feels more like I'm in a more awake drowsy, or more of like a meditative state already, so it's easier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
like
sense.
You're like, instead of like going to sleep, you're actually waking up, you know, but it's still that meditative state that's kind of in between. So
yeah,
I don't have so much of a struggle meditating in the morning, but yeah, I love that clear blue. So that's easy. I would say if I do a visualization in the morning, it's much easier than it is for me to do it at night.
Okay. I'll just say too, for anybody, if this is your first time with meditation, when I first started out, it's almost like your thoughts get louder before they get quieter.
That's true. Because you become aware of them.
Because you become so aware of them. So if it feels like you're hearing stuff more, or like more emotions are coming up, it's like, it's all part of the process, right?
Absolutely.
Especially when you first start. So it's not that it's not working or you're doing it wrong. It's that it's just part of the process, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you got to know that you're struggling before you can transcend the struggle.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the Buddhist principle of suffering.
Right. So then for day 4 in the evening, we do our mindfulness. So this is when we really connect to our senses and just be aware without judgment of what's happening. So this was really interesting for me. I had never really done this before.
Never done mindfulness?
I mean, not this kind of like sensory sort of like, I was witnessing, like, what am I hearing right now? What am I feeling? What am I tasting? You know, I connected to each of my senses. That was kind of how I did this.
Yeah. Good.
And so
that's a good one.
What really came up for me was this whole being the observer of whatever is happening. And it goes back to what you were saying before. It's like, the thing that blew my mind, I learned this maybe like 10 years or so ago, was like, I am not my thoughts. I'm the thinker of my thoughts. And that's what this like observance is like reiterated for me.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's almost like this practice, between this and the breath work, I feel like those are the two things that I really want to practice more and more.
Oh, good.
Because it really helps just create more space.
Yeah.
It creates more space in your mind, and you just notice, oh, there's a siren going by. Oh, I can hear someone talking on the phone. Oh, like I feel my chest like rising and falling. And it just becomes like there's no attachment to a story around why something is happening. It's just simply noticing it for what it is.
Exactly. And the non-judgment.
Yes.
You know, it's like the becoming the observer from that non-judgmental point of view is, I mean, that was like our judgment detox challenge. Yeah. It's like one of our first challenges, right, for Virgo season. To know, to see like how much we actually judge and attach ourselves to stories, and to know that we don't have to do that. Yeah. It's almost like you just do it because you think that like that's what we're supposed to do, or that you don't have control over it or something, but you do. Right. It's like, you're the one that's judging. You're the one that is creating the story behind this thing. Like, this thing is actually doesn't have any meaning. It's like neutral. Yeah. It's objective. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's a very important awareness to have. Yes. So that, I love this one. Yeah. How did it go for you? Well, I've done a lot of mindfulness through my friend who used to hold these like mindfulness like little workshops, but not workshops, they're very small little classes, I guess, with this mindfulness teacher. And it's basically and we did it with our kids, with our daughters, but because to teach kids mindfulness is a real benefit to them, especially, you know, with the anxiety and stuff that's like happening right now, so young with kids. But it's like things like she would do things like you put a grape in your mouth, right? And you just like put a grape in your mouth and you close your eyes and you just meditate on what it feels like, what it tastes like, what the shape of it is, like where you like all of the things, and you just kind of focus like all of your awareness on that one thing. And it's amazing what you can come up with as far as like when you pay attention to your senses in that way. And and it does take you out of judgment mind. It takes you into that curious observer. And imagine if you could be in that curious observer mind, like more of your life. Like that's what I actually really love about people, like some people that I know, is that and what I like hope to cultivate more within myself is to be that non-judgmental, like curious observer of and seer, like actually see somebody for from a non-judgmental but like really curious perspective. It's like and then to be seen in that way too. Like to be really seen as like with curiosity, like to be with somebody who is like looking at you with curiosity and with presence and with non-judgment. I mean, that's like when you really feel like you're being seen.
Totally.
That's when you're like really feeling like you can be like somebody can really possibly really see you, and that feels so great. So, but I think it's like I don't know, maybe some people are just more naturally inclined to do it and be born with it. But I definitely think that it's something that we're conditioned away from, by trying to like use our minds to like, figure things out and to like solve problems, versus what about just the power of observation that our minds give us, versus creating stories.
Because it's always such a limited perspective because it's just based on our own experience.
Exactly.
So it's like, I noticed I was doing this recently with someone where I felt like I was judging them. And when I would say what I was feeling, they would point out like none of it was actually true because it was solely based on my experience, my upbringing, my lens. And so it's like, there's a bajillion different ways that you can look at something, but when you can open it up and be more curious and ask questions, that's what I'm trying to do more, ask more questions and just remain open and stay curious.
Because once you attach a story onto it, then you're closing all these other things off. And so, but that's the thing is like, there's not even, for many of us, there's not even an awareness that we're attaching a story to it.
Exactly.
It's just like,
it just is the way that it is.
Exactly.
It's just like your mind convinces you that you're right.
I know, which is just like so fascinating because you're just like, wow, that's when your mind is taking control over you versus you taking control over your mind. So that's obviously one of the benefits of practicing mindfulness or practicing meditation, which is that again, detaching from your thoughts and becoming more of a witness to them, becoming that observer to them, so that that what you're thinking is actually can be a choice. It doesn't need to be like I don't know, like we think that it's just like an automatic, like we don't have any control over it. But you can't, but usually we don't, but you can. That's the practice.
And it can change more quickly than you think a lot of times. Like your perspective can change very quickly. Which is a beautiful thing. It doesn't have to take, sometimes it can take a long time, but I've been noticing recently that like things seem to be shifting pretty quickly. That feels good too. So
I know, because it's not so much about what it is that you're thinking about shifting. It's about like, as far as the shift can be quick, that what it is can be quick, but the practice is about staying open and knowing and practicing the choice and being that non-judgmental observer to all things. So it's like the practice is like cultivating the ground for the seeds to be planted versus it's not, like that's what the practice is. And that will take time, especially if you're really one of those that's very identified with your opinions and your thoughts and your stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I love. I mean, that's like the practice that's what's so beneficial.
Yeah.
It's like just knowing that there's a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to be controlled by your thoughts, which are usually rooted in the past and in the subconscious.
100%. Yeah. You don't even know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So the final day, day 5, is more mindfulness and breath work. So doing mindfulness from day 4, and then breath work in the evening from day 1. So again, a great experience this morning, just more observance of everything. So that, again, this feels like a great practice that I'm just getting introduced to. So I'm excited to incorporate it into my life. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think like what I would do more of. I mean, I feel like with all of these different types of meditation tools and techniques, that once you become more familiar with them, then you can see, I mean, everybody is affected by them differently. But I think that there's a real benefit in practicing as many different kinds as possible, and knowing that there's some specifically that you can use for specific situations, you know? So like, for instance, like, breath work for me before I meditate, or before I, go somewhere, or, just to kind of like raise my, like I would do like a Brahmana breath work to raise my energy and like feeling of aliveness, and kind of just like wake up, and also clarity of mind. And then I'll use my breath work before at night if I'm having trouble going to sleep, to do the longana, to do the longer exhalation. But then also, when you do feel anxiety, to do the longana breath work. And then probably the one I don't use as much, well, I feel like mindfulness can be done with like anything, mindfulness meditation is definitely something to practice if you're not used to, or if you're just starting out, but you eventually start to become, like with mindfulness, you start to become, you can realize, just like, it's like the, Thich Nhat Hanh is like, you can meditate doing anything. That's where mindfulness comes in. You can be in a meditative state while you're washing your dishes. You can be in a meditative state while you're cleaning. You can, do walking meditation. Right. So I actually had to do that the other day because I was falling asleep so much during my meditation. So I did that walking meditation where it's like a mindfulness walk, which is one of the things that we're going to offer at the retreat. But it's a mindfulness walk, which is where you feel every single, I used to do this at the Shambhala, at the meditation center and off of 3rd when I first moved to LA, and I was going through this incredible heartbreak. And I would go to this, the Shambhala center, and it was like Vipassana. It was very strict, like the silent seated meditation, which is actually very tormenting when you're going through a heartbreak. It was very difficult, very challenging. But the easier way to do it is to do a walking mindfulness meditation. So like if you're hiking, or you can just do like a walk, like even in a labyrinth or like a circle or a garden, and where you feel every single part of your foot landing on the ground, you feel your ankles moving, you feel how your legs are working, you feel how your muscles are moving, you feel, you can listen to your breath, you just become like very, very mindful with your walking. That's very clearing too. But and I think that's a good alternative if you fall asleep a lot in meditation.
Right. Plus being in nature. I mean,
oh yes, being in nature.
I love being in nature.
Of course, I know.
I
love being in nature too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah.
Great.
I know. It was a good
one.
Well,
this is a really good one. And I will say, doing it twice a day did feel challenging at times.
Yeah.
So this really felt like a challenge. But it definitely feel like things are shifting. So check this one out, everybody. 5 days of meditation. Learn something new, try a new method, try it for the first time. I don't think you can ever go wrong with meditation.
Yeah, but definitely it's a challenge, and it's probably, depending on where you're at with a meditation practice, explore it like you're trying to, like you want to explore, like different kinds of foods, like figure out which one that you really resonate with, which one you really like, and then just to start going deeper with that. And just to know that there's so many different kinds of meditation, I think, but the main intention and focus is that we're trying to become more aware of ourselves through our minds, and knowing that we are not what we think, and that we can control, and we do have choices in the way that we think. And when we change the way that we think, or when we can observe our thoughts, it's life becomes much like you can change a lot of things. When you start with your mind state, and you start with the awareness of what's happening in the mind, then I mean, everything can change eventually.
Yeah.
Right.
Love
Mindset. Right.
Everything. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you next month with our cancer, right?
Yeah. Cancer.
Yes.
Cancer challenge.
All
I
right.
know. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.